Mark Moore, Prison Stories, that way. Come here, y'all. Let me holler at you for a second. Let me talk to y'all about something that I haven't heard anybody speak on before. The Southern Brotherhood, the SBs. SBs was a small group of white inmates slash convicts in the state of Alabama prison system that created or formed this alliance, from my understanding, as a downfall or a downgrade of the Aryan Brotherhood. Okay, so we're going to go back to a penitentiary called Ventress in the year 2000, 2001. Now, at first, nobody really paid the SBs any attention. But, slowly but surely they started recruiting and getting a little big and a little big and a little big. So they became more noticeable. All right. So it was this guy there. I'm not going to call his real name. We'll just call him Jimbo. Jimbo was a white dude, man. He appeared to be cool, but at the end of the day, for some reason, he wanted to create or either initiate the Southern Brotherhood at this particular prison I was in. Now, we had heard of him, but we had never really seen him for real, or had no problems, no issues, anything. But you hear a little talk in the prison, so we had heard about, man, white dude got some stuff going on called the Southern Brotherhood. I'm like, all right, whatever, nobody paid no attention. This particular white guy, him, was a little different. He was different. Jimbo. That's not his real name, but I'm not gonna use his real name. I will say this: he was from the Montgomery or surrounding areas. I just put it like that. Somewhere in that area, in the midst of Montgomery and the surrounding counties. So, but anyway, he was, like I say, he was kind of cool. He seemed like he was kind of, kind of hip and everything. But when he started forming, bringing this up, the SB, I always call him the SB when they say all that Southern. When he started like bringing the SB together, you see him over there in the corner, by the their little spot was by the picnic table, and and the volleyball, way over there in the, that was their little designated area. I guess they didn't want to be around no blacks or nobody else or whatever, because nobody was supposed to be in that area but their little group of white guys that was having their little meeting. But anyway, that's another story I'm going to tell y'all about how we got into it with them about that. But anyway, so they started recruiting. They working out together on the weight pile. They doing burpees and walking the track, doing jumping jacks and jogging. And so, like I said, at first nobody was really paying them any attention, but it caught the eyes of some guys who could see what was about to transpire, what was, what they were trying to do. Naturally, it would have been an old timer that wasn't used to seeing that type of get down or program or whatever you want to call it, in Alabama prison coming from the white guys. So anyway, and like I say, let me say this before I go on with this story. No disrespect to nobody. I don't care what race you are. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a piece of boo-boo, you're a piece of boo-boo. So it's no disrespect. I'm just merely telling a story about something that I witnessed firsthand myself. So please don't nobody take no offense to it. But anyway, so they starting to recruit, they starting to build, the numbers starting to come up a little bit. Now they would never be deep as, the black race, but it was enough of them that you could tell they started getting a little cocky and, being a little arrogant. But this one particular white dude, he was supposed to have been like the head. I don't know if everybody was just scared of him or they just respected him, or I don't know what it was, but he seemed to be the one that was pulling the strings, calling the shots, making calls, and just, like he seemed to be the one that was in charge, the head honcho. So anyway, now I had heard little stories about the dude that, he could get down with his hands, this and that, but I had never seen it. Nobody had ever seen it there, but you hear stories, people talk, right? So I say probably a month goes by. No funk, no static, no problem, no fights, no nothing. But like I said, they were becoming bolder and bolder. And there was some talk going on amongst, different gangs, organizations, cliques, whatever. You feel me? Because when something like that breaks out, you're gonna put the gang stuff to the side. You're gonna put the city stuff to the side when it's a situation like that, black, race. And I'm not trying to promote no racism because I am not racist. But this is something I witnessed in the Alabama prison system, a whole lot of it. So a chain came in. For those who don't know, a chain is a transfer that coming in from wherever they're coming from. Usually 9 times out of 10 they're gonna be coming from Kilby, the reception center in Alabama. So chain come in. And for some reason, Ventures, it seemed like all the transfer would mostly always be a lot of white guys. Like every other prison in the state of Alabama, when the transfers come in, it's mostly blacks. Ventures would always be more white guys than I know some like, man, they send a lot of white dudes here. Anyway, so it was just one little guy, man. We'll call him Lil Timmy. Yeah, Lil Timmy. Don't know where Lil Timmy was from, but Lil Timmy seemed to be, kind of cool. But he was young, he was white, it was his first time in prison. He didn't know nobody. I kind of got why he did it. You know what I mean? He ended up aligning himself with the SBs, Southern Brotherhood. Okay. Now, from my understanding, being a Southern Brotherhood, you didn't supposed to have really no dealings with the black race. That is just from my understanding. I don't know. I'm not a Southern Brotherhood. I didn't really, pay it that much attention. I'm just going by what I learned a little bit on down the road, because it was supposed to be, like I said, a downgrade from the Aryan Brotherhood out of California, which, we all know that they were something serious. I mean, they wasn't nothing to be played with. You feel me? So I guess these dudes were gonna try to be like them, and y'all think about this. In the Alabama prison system where it's predominantly the majority of black people, yeah, I mean, y'all ain't gonna have no win. Maybe in California or somewhere like that, I can understand it because the numbers are not as off balance as they were in the Alabama prison system. That's just the way it was. I didn't make it that way. It's just the way it was when I got there, and pretty much when I left. And I'm kind of almost sure it's probably still that way. So they recruiting, and then it's they recruit their little guy, little Timmy. But little Timmy wasn't racist. Little Timmy was actually cool. So I'm thinking, just from me on the outside when I was looking in, watching it, the whole little, get down every day, I'm kind of seeing like little Timmy just wanted to be accepted. He just wanted some friends because he just come to prison. Y'all know how it is when you first go to prison. Even if you ain't been to prison, I'm pretty sure you can imagine the jitters, the paranoia, you know what I mean? So I get it. But him joining up with the SBs was turned out to be a very, very, very bad mistake for him. So, like I say, from my understanding, they didn't supposed to, have no interaction with no black people or whatever, unless it was like a business deal or whatever. So, Lil Timmy liked to play basketball. Now, everybody knows in the Alabama prison system that the blacks are pretty much gonna dominate the basketball court, the weight pile, just different little things. Now, the white guys get in where they fit in at, but for the most part, it's gonna be the black dude, especially playing the basketball. That's most definitely almost everybody's gonna be black. So, but little Timmy liked to play ball. And the funny thing about it, y'all, little Timmy could play ball. Like really, wherever he come from or who he was hanging around on the street, he was really good at playing basketball. So time going on. So, and like I say, most people that play basketball were the blacks. So you can see that you just sit back in prison and just watch. You can feel tension. You can see kind of sense what's going on. So little Timmy would be over there playing with the blacks. He had got to the point where the blacks were looking for him. They be like, what little such yeah, because he could play. Okay. And he would bang a little bit. You know how the physicality on the basketball, the prison ball. Y'all know, for those who've been in prison, you know what I mean. So, but you start seeing this one, the head SB, this guy that was from around the Montgomery areas, whatever. It would always be him and this little short, little stubby, little white guy. I don't know if that was his the right hand man, left hand man, sidekick, dude boy. I don't know, but he was always with him. So we start seeing them going over there, like to the basketball court and calling little Timmy. So little Timmy would start, he would go, but it got to a point that the blacks were getting irritated because they was disturbing the game. Little Timmy was like he became like kind of important to the blacks, that played basketball faithfully every day in this particular prison. You had guys used to bet on them games and all types of stuff. So it was kind of serious to some of them. You feel me? So, and with them being SBs, y'all coming over here pulling him out the game. I mean, come on, man. You already know what it's growing up. It's growing up. It's growing up. But what little Timmy endured, in my opinion, was a lot worse than what happened after that. So, anyway, they pulled little Timmy off the court several times, and you can see him. Dude was like, you talking with the hand like he checking him or whatever, and little Timmy like, man, he'll walk off. Okay, so I would say probably 2 days after that, you see the little white boys over there, the SB, they having a little meeting, probably about like 8 of them, 9 of them, you know what I mean? That might have been a little bit more, probably about 13 or 14 at that time. But like I said, they was recruiting. So they having a little meeting over there. So you can see little Timmy is like, they got like a little circle. He's like standing in the middle of it, and the dude talking to him with the hands. I can't stand people do that to me because I know people do that and then turn around, bow, slap, But anyway, talking to him with the little hands and stuff. So from what I heard after everything went down, little Timmy was given a direct order from the head honcho here to stay away from blacks. Anyway, this went on probably a week and a half. I guess Timmy just got tired of giving excuses why he didn't want to play ball or whatever. He didn't feel good or he had to do this or whatever. So finally, I guess little Tim was like, man, bump this. Little Tim said, screw it. I just what I'm thinking now, because he went right out there and played on a game of basketball. What happened after that was really, really, really weird. They have a meeting. The last yard call is almost over. It's about time for everybody to lock down. So anyway, they did snatch little Tim up over there, and they like do all in his face and stuff. So like Tim, like, man, you know how you do, man. So from my understanding, now the Southern Brotherhood was not a gang. like the Bloods or the Crips, or in Alabama, which they say it's not a gang, but the Disciples. You get jumped in, and sometimes when you want to get out of it, you get jumped out. That would be the least thing that would happen to you. It should be more, but sometimes they beat you up and let you go on about your business, which it is what it is. From my understanding, because I didn't sleep in the dorm with with them, and they don't, after the last lockdown, it was like a little scuffle between Little Timmy, not the head dude, but one of the other ones. I guess from my understanding, it was one of the ones who kind of like introduced him to, to bring him in or whatever. So I guess they was like, man, and I'm pretty sure this probably how it went. Yeah, you brought us in, and he doing this, doing that. So he probably was getting on him, like, man, I thought you said he was gonna this, that, you know what I mean? So yeah, so the pressure was on him. So I guess he felt some type of way, and he confronted Little Tim. It wasn't a fight from what I just a little scuffle, but the law didn't get involved, so they didn't go to no shift officers or nothing. Next day comes, first yard call, everybody outside. First yard call gonna be let out by 7:00, 7:30, whenever they do the count and they getting ready to, the count clear. Everybody got to get up and get outside so the dorm cleaners can clean up. That's Monday through Friday. So anyway, now so they open up the yard, and we see the little white guys over there, and the head dude, he's like he's laying down the law. I never knew that the head dude liked it boys, or he liked it booty. And come to find out, as the years went on, I've seen several SBs either creep around or do it all out in the open, or like I say, Alabama prison system is a different species, and lots of times, if you would throw them hands, or if you were, what I'm talking about, you tend to get away with a lot more than others. Now, sometimes now, just depending on the situation, the penitentiary you are in, and the people that are there, to where it has been enforced, where they have like a little squad or a little group or a little clique that's the disciplinary squad. That's not what it's called. It's just what I'm saying, letting y'all know what it is. Where when they go, it's all smoke. Feel me? So anyway, Little Timmy evidently was not as strong as I thought he was. He fell for the okie doke. Now, back then in prison, you could get some pills called clonidine 0.3 blood pressure medicine. It's the strongest you can get, a 0.3 clonidine. Clonidines will put you to sleep. When I first got out of prison, I was on clonidine 3 because my blood pressure used to be so high. That's what messed my kidneys up. So clonidines have actually made me go to sleep at a red light. These are some strong pills. Okay, so anyway, I don't know what they told little Timmy to keep him around or whatever. I guess they were just like, all right, they, probably, told him, okay, man, everything cool. We understand. I don't know what they told him. Whatever they told him, he didn't pay attention. He didn't think nothing about the switch up. Now you're trying to chastise me. Now, now you acting like everything is all right. That was a red flag. But Timmy never been in prison, so he couldn't recognize that. Man, they put, from my understanding, some clonidine 0.3 blood pressure pill in some whiskey, some julep, prison-made whiskey. And because everybody in prison did it. The Bloods would do it sometime. The Crib, the Disciple, non-fit, the old time. Everybody wanted a little drink here and there. So it wasn't nothing unusual. And like I say, I didn't sleep in the dorm with him. That's what I found out the next day. Timmy drunk that cup and he got real loose. I guess how some people get real loose when they drink that whiskey, man. Or drink, like on the street, they true happy, go lucky, go free myself come by. And that's what they say little Timmy was acting like. He's all touchy-feely and I love you, bro. And all I can't stand that drunk with you, man. Get out my face. You feel me? But that night came. Well, later on that night after lockdown. The dude that was supposed to have been like the head sexually assaulted little Timmy. Little Timmy was out. But the combination of that whiskey, because even though it's homemade, trust and believe, it will get you drunk. It's just like stuff in the state store or the liquor store. You feel me? And especially if you've been locked up a while, your tolerance is, you know what I mean? So it will get you drunk. But with the combination of that clonidine 0.3, little Timmy was out of it. He was out of it. From my understanding, man, after it used to be like 1 o'clock. I think it was like it's either like used to be 1 or 2 o'clock count. Usually the officers, the rovers, they out counting and probably going on break because everybody's supposed to be sleeping in the dorm, so they ain't got to worry about no fight and running around. Feel me? And that was the perfect time. Went over there and got in the bed on top of little Timmy. Little Timmy was on the bottom bed. Got on top of little Timmy. He don't. From my understanding, dudes tell me, because a couple of dudes said, man, I seen it, but that's their business. You don't get in folk business in prison like that. Especially then, we ain't give a damn, because they was like, shit, what they stand for? So dudes tell me like that. But it just, to me, I'd been like, come on, bro. I'd been like, man. But, I wasn't in it on. The other guys felt how they felt about these dudes because of what they were starting to try to promote. You feel me? It was more than just unity among the whites in Alabama. It was a whole lot more than that we found out later on. But anyway, y'all, got on top of little Timmy, and I guess covered his mouth or something, and then like put that, from what I hear, wasn't a knife. It was just like a little. It had like these little long nails that you could get like outside, like around the bills. His head was in the ground. It's still probably like a 10-inch, but it's only a nail, but it's got a point on the end. And they told him if he make a sound, if he say anything, we're gonna push it from one side of the neck to the other. And he raped little Timmy. The next day, everybody was talking about it. Little Timmy was walking around with his head down. He wasn't talking to nobody. He wasn't looking at nobody. Feel like he was, and everybody knew it, even if they didn't sleep in the dorm. Because that's how prison is. They talk about it. They tell everything. Little Timmy, me personally, I thought little Timmy was gonna get some straightening, which that still wouldn't change the fact what happened to him. But hey, man, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Man, I would have went all the way Rambo mode, but little Timmy didn't. He didn't. Little Timmy was by himself. So little Timmy just ended up getting with an old timer. He used to run the slick pick tickets there. He was from Mobile, Alabama. I ain't gonna call his name or his nickname, but he was penitentiary rich, and little Timmy ended up being with him. So just because you're a part of some in the Alabama prison system, and I've seen it done in gangs too, and I'm gonna do some stories about that too. Just because you're a part of something does not mean one single bit that you are safe from the people who saying whatever you saying, y'all saying the same thing, claiming the same thing, throwing up the same thing. That will not mean or keep you safe. Hey man, stay free and do the right thing, y'all. You don't even have to subject yourself to that type of foolishness. This your boy Mark Moore. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Lamarck Moore, Prison Stories, that way.